Take 10, 1000 views.
Hi guys, this is me, Eryk S again. Today I would like to take you through an interesting story about two-way speakers, the way they are developed, usually construction types. And also I would like to tell you a few interesting stories about speakers, so drivers which are applied in our bookshelf, floor-standing speakers, you name it. So first of all, let me introduce one of the most, I think, interesting drivers being produced during the 70s, which is constructed in an interesting way, not so often applied nowadays. This driver was made in Poland, and it looks a bit similar to the foreign productions like Celestion made in Great Britain during 70s. So there is some resemblance to them. This driver was made in Poland. It was designed in 1970 and applied in one of the first speakers which met hi-fi standards. Let it be known, put to your attention that hi-fi standards those days were like power bandwidth was like 100 Hz to 12 kilohertz. This was the demanding rule for the speaker to meet the hi-fi requirements. And now they are a bit, would be like a little bit off target, because you have speakers which, now you have speakers which easily go beyond 20 kilohertz. So you can just imagine what the first loudspeakers which met hi-fi standards sounded like. And this is a very interesting driver. I wanted to show it because it also gives us an idea what was, how the speakers developed throughout the years. We have 50 years old driver here, and as considering its in construction, let me say a few words about it. As you can see, the driver has a beautiful aluminium die-cast basket, which was molded in a very robust fashion. It's very strong and rigid, so for sure it prevents any resonances which can occur due to the parts which work very fast during the driver reproduction process. Also, you can see here, you can spot here an interesting motor. It's an Alnico magnet, which were quite often used during those days, like during 70s. The loudspeaker hi-fi audio industry finally switched to ferrite magnets in the end of the 70s. And this is a very strong and powerful magnet. You can see also the 4 screws which attach 3 parts of the magnets together. And next, you can also spot, this is in paper cellulose membrane, but look at the upper suspension. This suspension is made of the special rubber which is very, it's quite dense, but it's also very elastic. Besides, it helps driver moving quite high, giving it high excursion peaks. It also has a good high dampening properties. So it not also helps to move the driver linearly, but also has a nice impact on the power bandwidth of the driver, or the frequency response of the driver. So in this case, this woofer, or rather say, I rather name it mid-woofer, goes from 40 Hertz, its self-resonance, to almost 6 kilohertz. It's very flat linear response without any disturbing peaks. So you can apply it in various construction. I myself use it because I bought a new old stock supply, and I apply them in my recent speaker models, which are named Project One. Project One uses such a speaker, which I consider being one of the most favorable and best sounding. What I mean when I'm saying best sounding, because it's so obvious statement, I mean that this driver has great capabilities, considering its 3D dimensional sound reproduction. So the sound does not sits exactly in the speaker. It's all around you. Also, it sounds very natural. It's truly, you have a feeling that this driver reproduces the sound in its most natural fashion manner. So this is the other thing, and also the power, the frequency response, which I mentioned previously. It goes far beyond the usual bandwidth of such drivers. This driver's size is 16 centimeters, so usually such drivers go till 3 kilohertz and end up after that frequency, and this goes two times longer, 2 times wider. So it enables you to use it with variety of tweeters, high frequency drivers. Also, its cellulose membrane is quite flat, considering the angle of the cone. So eventually you get a quite wide angle of dispersion of the driver. So it also helps you to have a full stereoscope, even when your head during the listening session moves quite wide, and you often change your position as a listener. So this driver I consider being one of the best engineered, even though it was made during Soviet times, so communist times in Warsaw Pact, but it was really very well designed. I'm not quite aware if it was benchmarked with the foreign productions, like those mentions from Great Britain, but I assume that for sure Polish engineers also went to foreign trades to benchmark, to look out, to check what novelties has the market to offer those days. But eventually they yield a great construction, great design, which is why I'm applying even in today made constructions and my designs. Okay, so we've got the driver which is 50 years old and still pumping hard and reproducing great quality. And let me show you now what are the changes after 50 years. What changes have been made after improvements after 50 years of dynamic driver construction. This one, for example, is a driver made today, nowadays, so it's from 2020. And as you can see, I hope you can spot it also on the camera, it has a great, it also has aluminum die-cast frame, but additionally it has airflows to cool the coil inside the driver during hard times when you pushed the volume knob over the 12 on your amplifier. For example, you've got also you've got ferrite magnet, but it's 10 centimeters wide, so it's quite wide considering the 16 centimeters total width of the driver. And magnet. As you can see, the magnet is angled one. It's also angled the fact that the inductance flux is more dense in the inductance gap, and in the gap sits the voice coil. So it also makes great improvement considering the power of this motor and the power of the speaker. So in the end, you've got a speaker, you get a speaker which has 90 dBs efficiency. It's very quiet, it's very high for such a speaker. And also it has a carbon membrane. This carbon membrane makes this driver work till 5-6 kilohertz. So I consider this one as a benchmark for quality. And the self-resonance of the driver is 34-35 hertz. That's quite low. It gets quite low. You can easily make a 35 hertz out of 15 liters box, for example, in bass reflex mode, bass reflex. So this is the construction from today, and this is from the made half century before. So as you can see, there are some similarities, and there are some improvements. So it's like in Japanese philosophy Kaizen, which perfects the unperfected and makes it even more perfect each day. So it's a constant work, constant job to improve one thing over the other, to cancel its imperfections. So we've got 50 years difference. And it's not so obvious maybe from the aesthetical point of view, but anyway, the philosophy of the construction and the way both drivers sound cannot be considered as this is worse and this is better. They're just different, and it only depends on your taste which one you will choose finally in the end. Your taste, your amplifier you use, your sonic preferences, and of course also the genre you are listening at the moment currently. Is it rock or house music, electronica, classical, acoustical, whatever, you name it. But it's not the final statement, this is the best or this is the best. They're just very good on each one in their own case. So here we've got the woofer or the mid-woofer drivers, as we can say. And now, as typical driver, each of them for the fully made speaker, loudspeaker column, demands to have a tweeter, so to reproduce the high frequencies, high sonic frequencies. And they are often used dumb tweeters. So you've got only this part in driver, in the tweeter driver, which reproduces high frequencies. You've got also the ribbon tweeters. The ribbon tweeters are very speedy, very fast, accurate. Mostly due to the fact that their membrane, which is like a small, very light leaf of aluminium foil or other type of foil, is very lightweight. So it's like 2.02 grams in the mass, total mass. So it's very quick, much quicker than typical dumb tweeters, dumb made with such a part tweeters. But there is also an old school approach, which was often very very often used during these 50s, 70s, mostly 60s, for example, in the tube radios. The high frequency drivers which looked almost exactly as this one. So the difference only was that for sure they were a little bit smaller, looked like this one, like those in between, but their center pole was blocked with a screw just to disable drivers' high excursions, which made the drivers go with high frequencies much better. But it still was the old type cone tweeter driver, and it has some pros and cons as every design. I think that the pros are that there is a very wide membrane area, so due to the fact you've got much higher efficiency, so the driver outputs more power, so to speak. And eventually it also, due to the fact that this one is made from the cellulose, the membrane is cellulose with soaked, dampened a little bit with special fluids. This one also sounds very natural, true, and also colorful, but it's not doing any distortions. I think you have an idea, you have a feeling that this driver response gives you much less colorations. It's just only pure natural sound. So I use this one because it has almost 9 centimeters wide membrane as a mid-tweeter in my applications, in my bookshelf speakers, which I consider one of the best for when you compare it from the value for money ratio or the quality of the sound. You can connect those speakers with tube amps, digital amps, solid state A-class amps. Usually I would like to prefer tube amps because I still think that tubes have something to offer extra from the natural sounds properties. Also, the newest D-class amps have much improved over the last few years, so you've now get much better sounding digital amps than ever before. And considering they are built the way they are built, mostly from chips, you've got much lower prices. You get much better value for money if you are interested in it. But together those drivers make up for a very good, well-performing loudspeaker, which I would like also to present you, maybe in this part, but for sure in next one. I will tell you more about the idea of the application and the final result, because such drivers which are that size big will suit well rooms like 20 to 25 square meters. So if you go far beyond that size, I mean your room is like 40 square meters, maybe you should consider constructions similar to those ones which I have presented in my first part of Eryk S Concept stories. Anyway guys, I would like to thank you again for your attention, and will supply you with new goodies quite soon. Bye.